My name is Esther. I am a professional artist for many years here in Reading, Pennsylvania. For over 15 years, I've been doing art and teaching and doing local events. The thing that brought me to the United States from the country that I was born in, Martinique, was my parents. My parents were originally from Haiti, and they moved to Martinique and had my sister and myself. And by the age of 5, my parents decided to immigrate to America in New York. I think that was a great opportunity. My earliest beginnings in the arts were, I would say, when I was in 2nd grade. I was, touted as the class artist from that early age. Moving on in my teenage years, I went to a great school called BOCES Cultural Arts Center in New York. And there I learned everything from photography to sculpting to painting, drawing. That school, it would audition a lot of high school students. Through the auditioning process, they would select a few to be a part of their program. I remember when I was auditioning and they sat you in a room and with 3 other students, and as you waited, they had you draw a still life, and that was your first test. Then they would interview you. Through that, they made a decision to see if you would be a part of their program. I was lucky enough to be selected at 9th grade. I believe it was really because of my teachers that helped inspire me to refine my portfolio. One of my art teachers actually got me my first portfolio bag, so I carried that into the audition, and it was a great experience 100% because of that. Teachers play a big part in a lot of students' life, and I think my teachers really saw my talent and saw my passion for the arts. What brought me from New York to Pennsylvania was a longer story. Before I moved to Pennsylvania, I went from New York and lived in California. I was newly married with my wife Shirley and Esther, and we had our first son in California. I saw a different culture, a different way of life in the West Coast. I was cultivating my business skills at the time, since my wife was in the military, so I was more of the stay-at-home, and I was able to really establish my business. It was later on, she decided not to re-enlist, and we wanted to go back to the civilian world, and we started to set up Reading, Pennsylvania as our home base, and we've been here ever since for about over 15 years. Through my experiences of living in different places, it definitely affected my exposure to a lot of different styles of art. From New York, seeing the Met or the Guggenheim, I think that really helped me in my first stage of growth, because I learned about the classical arts in the early stages of my teenage years. Moving to the West Coast, it was great looking at the local scenes, and it was really interesting. It gave me a perspective of street art and graffiti. Pulling it forward to now in Reading, Pennsylvania, being a part of nature more so, because there's a lot of nature out in Pennsylvania. I learned a new approach and got into landscape and the classical farm paintings, folk art, or painting on wood, painting on different materials. It gave me this adaptability thing, because I'm never afraid to try new things. You can mix and match and do different mediums and create new approaches to your own art. When I first decided to pursue the arts, I was focused on connecting with other artists, connecting with people who did art, and learning from them and see what they did. I created my own website at the time. I did a lot of things to get myself known and connected with the local community, and also doing events, doing shows where I would display my paintings, really got my name out there. My earliest beginnings to where I am now is a picture of being persistent and focused on your goals. I found out that teaching was my focus when I lived here in Reading, and the Goggle Works was the center of art and culture when I first established myself. And I got a studio there, which was a huge honor at the time. And the after-school program didn't have an instructor to teach at the time, and I quickly jumped at it because opportunities were not always available. So my first class was my first enlightening experience of me teaching and having students for the first time change my role from everything that I did when I was young. And that class was amazing, and it brought me to that realization of, wow, I can be an art teacher and an art instructor and teach what I know. The instructors that inspired me when I was young, it definitely gave me a template to understand what it's like to teach. I basically looked in the past and how my instructors gave me tips, tricks, and techniques to improve my art. From then, I got another opportunity to teach at Studio B in Boyertown, Pennsylvania. I was there for over 10 years. I taught everything from anime, sculpting, drawing, painting, and then teaching also at Painting with a Twist, which is another phenomenal organization that created great fun experiences of teaching painting while sipping a little bit of wine and having a great time. From there, my true vision was to open up my own art gallery and studio, and when I had the opportunity and raised enough money, I found this space that was perfect for what me and my family wanted, as far as a great place to live and also a commercial studio space. The thing that kind of pushed me to start my own art studio was through my experience. There's no real book on how to become an artist, so you have to kind of figure it out as you go along. So my first step was to be around other artists, and then I got into teaching. It just kind of mushroomed to the point where, oh yeah, wow, I can actually do this on my own and have an art studio that I created. I got my feet wet to the point where I was able to leverage social media and get enough client jobs and get a space to renovate and kind of make it into what it is today. That whole experience of renovating a space from what it was to creating a gallery studio space was a very enlightening experience. Art Corner was created years before I even got the space, but yet it became a space that exists today on the corner between Roosevelt and Melrose in Reading. We took the task at hand and we started by, just kind of ripping everything out. We had like 3 dumpsters to take everything out and now rebuild everything from scratch. So we hired a contractor for the important work, which is the electrical and plumbing. And we took about 2 years to turn this space from what it was to what it is now. It was a long process, but it was all worth it at the end. From laying down the flooring, laying down the glaze finish, it was the best experience in getting to know your space and really appreciating what you've built. I have a better understanding, a lot more things that I can do to create my art in the future, and I recorded and remembered every part of it. It was a great opportunity, and I'm glad that we got it to look as good as it does today. My goal was always to create a space where I can invite other artists. I have other artists come in and they share my space so they can create their own amazing artwork or projects, and I gain the energy from that because having other artists around you just kind of creates this working environment that makes creating a lot more fluid. And I think that was my push to where I am now, to have a studio, call it my own. It brought out my entrepreneurial aspect, and Art Corner became a brick and mortar, and I'm happy for that. My goal for the studio space here at Art Corner, we would love to open it up to the public and hopefully have great events, great art parties, great gallery shows, and things that will help enhance our community here in Reading. Community is very important to me and what I do as far as being an artist, because without a community that's doing really well, an artist really can't survive. But the great thing about the arts is that it can help foster a more affluent, a more creative community, whether it's to teach art or after school programs. I want this place to be an energetic, artistic epicenter here in Reading. Art Corner as a brand, back when I created it, it was an art service company that I used to offer my skills as an artist, from portraits to murals to logo design. And now Art Corner evolved more into more of an art gallery and studio space, and also a brand where I can launch other platforms like Metasapient, my graphic novel that is underneath Art Corner, and Expression Custom Portraits is another thing that's underneath Art Corner, where I offer my portrait drawings to my clients and other things like that. I even have a series of paintings called Human Nature, and that's also a brand and a constant thing that's underneath the Art Corner umbrella. Any services that I've offered and named and titled, I created. It's all encompassed underneath that umbrella called Art Corners. My process when it comes to creating art, it really depends on the art itself. For example, my human nature pieces are really detailed and there's a lot of meaning. With that, I would normally always start with a sketch. So when it came to the human nature piece, it would be a human element and then also a lot of nature element intertwined around it. That process was more of a creative illustration project, drawing, creating the flow, the movement, and then solidifying it more, and then after that blowing it up and painting it on a larger canvas to create the look that I want. That's usually my process. So I would go from a sketch and searching, getting ideas of the elements that I want to put on, and then finalizing it in the final medium that I really want. And it usually takes those steps to create a piece that's very unique in its own look. One of the pieces that I would say that really stands out in the pieces that I've done would be the one that's right behind me here. That's the Native American chief, but actually that title of that piece is called just The Chief. It's a great piece because I had a great time doing it, and it's actually part of my cultural piece where I take a lot of native tribes, native groups that lived on the planet, and I pay homage to the different ancient cultures that we want to kind of spotlight. So that's one of the pieces that I did, and that one was featured in the Art of Transformation show that I had last year in 2020 at Alvernia. And that's when I unveiled that piece, and it got a lot of great responses. And it's one of my favorite pieces just because it just really depicts a lot of emotions within the portrait of the chief, and it shows, you know, the noble and the deep work ethic and respect that kind of is portrayed in his face. And like one side is actually more kind of sunburned, you know, from the exposure of a lot of sun, and he has like a story to tell with his face. So the visual arts that I'm focused on right now, it changes, but now I would say it's animation, video. I want to find ways to present art in a more dynamic, more interesting way. My Metasavian project, we're producing an animation level project alongside it. Metasavian is an open world graphic novel comic book that me and two of my partners, Bruce Jones and D.L. Lusky, created from all the different things that were happening in the world at the time back in 2011, 2010. It was the time of different ideas on what it's like to be a hero today. So we decided to make ourselves part of the comic book to explain how, you know, we can help awaken humanity to their full potential. So it's a huge overarching story or platform that we created, and we were very successful at it. We created our first comic book back in 2011, and we sold hundreds of books. We've gone to a lot of conventions and community events like where we offered our books, and it was an awesome experience because we grew a lot as a crew, and it was the most connected we've gotten with other groups, other artists like Free Your Mind, and our connections grew more and more from just the comic book in the beginning. Metasavian now has grown to become its own website, metasavian.com, and we offer our books. The collection edition is our most recent book that offers all three of issue 1, 2, and 3 together. We've been doing very well now. We're at another creative plateau where we're creating our own animated series, and hopefully in the near future we hope to have you guys take a look at it and see what we've been up to. Metasavian as a whole, I see really expanding as a larger platform in itself. Metasavian as a graphic novel, also we plan on expanding as well with animation being produced. We plan on coming out with more books, more graphic novels, more brands, more t-shirts, more accessories, so we can really kind of push the brand to a new level, a new platform that is really connecting people with our platform so they can actually tell their own stories in the near future. So we have a lot of plans on even getting into gaming down the line. I think that anything is possible when it comes to Metasavian. Even though we're a small studio, we're able to create quality animations that I think would really, shock people to see the quality. And we're really excited to show that when the time's right. And it'll be very soon. More to come on that, and I look forward to sharing our animation with everyone. Where I see Art Corner and myself going in the next, say, 5 to 10 years, I hope to expand to a larger studio. As an artist that's been doing it for a few years, it's always important to kind of look back and help those who may not know what it takes to kind of get into the field. What I do is I've always opened up my studio to other artists, as a place to work or a place to just get into a creative zone, a creative space, because not only does it help them out, it helps me out as well, because when you're in a space where other artists are working, it just creates a synergy on getting things done. Also, from doing my videos, I'm able to show and present to people what I do and ways that I can help them achieve a similar result. One of the first models for Art Corner that I had was inspired to create. I always want to inspire people to create what they love. The advice I would give any young aspiring artist to get into the field of art would be just do it. Art, it's a working man's game. It's super important to just do it as much in the early stages as possible. Get good at it, learn tips, tricks, techniques from YouTube and from different artists that are around the world, because there's a lot of artists who will share their techniques and their tips. Learn from them, learn from those who inspire you. Some of my biggest inspiration would be some of my art instructors and the other artists, YouTubers, professional content creators that really finds their voice and their style. Most notably, a great artist that comes up is Kim Jong-Yi. Great Korean artist, great illustrator. He has a great platform. People like that really inspire me. Another thing is to also connect with other like-minded artists. Being around creative people helps you be more creative. Grow your network. Use social media. Use the internet. It gets better as you get older. With age, if you keep pursuing it and you do it for a long time, your network will grow with you. The main thing is not to be afraid. Being afraid really holds people back from doing a lot of things that they would have hoped to. One of the main things as an artist is to know who you are. Gaining confidence from showing your art really can teach you more about yourself and really help you grow. There's no wrong way when it comes to being an artist, and being able to tell your story in an honest and open way so people can know who you are, as well as what your art brings as far as context to the world today. So there's a lot to take in, but not to be afraid is very, very important.